Hey guys, Commander Magenta Warrior back again with another Elite Dangerous video. Let's go ahead and get started with the menu. First, we're going to talk about gimbals, what they are and what their trade-offs are. Next, we'll cover Gimbal Wander and its impact on gimbal weaponry. And lastly, we'll touch on an Emissive Munitions experimental before wrapping things up. Timestamps are in the description if you want to skip to a particular chapter. Starting with Chapter 1, Gimbals. When you purchase certain weaponry, such as lasers or multi-cannons, you have three different options for how the weapon will be mounted. These options are fixed, gimbaled, and turreted. Fixed weapons offer the highest DPS. However, they are mounted to your ship facing forward, and outside of the micro-gimbling that they can do, they only fire forward. Gimbaled and turreted weapons can track enemies to a degree, and turreted weapons can even be configured to fire without you ever lifting a finger. The angle at which gimbaled weapons can lock onto a target varies by target and distance. We tested the angles at which you can lock onto targets, and it appears to have a reciprocal curve. However, in exchange for these ease-of-use features, they offer less DPS, with the gimbaled weapons having 75% the damage of the fixed weapon options, and turreted having even less. Gimbaled and turreted weapons are also vulnerable to chaff. When your target deploys a chaff, it will scramble your gimbaled weapons for the duration of the chaff. By the way, even though the tooltip says that the chaff lasts for 20 seconds, in reality they only last for 12. Depending on your activity, enemies are more likely to carry chaff. From our data collection, it seems CZ ships have around 20% chance to carry chaff, and Hazres are closer to about 35-40%. And if you're doing wing assassination missions, your targets are pretty much always going to carry chaff. This brings us to Chapter 2, Gimbal Wander. If you've ever used gimbaled weapons on not SLFs, you may have noticed that your fire pattern isn't straight. Your gimbals seem to wander to an extent about their target. It's almost like there's a built-in jitter. It's important, especially for projectile weapons, that our shots go where we are trying to fire them. Eyeballing it through a small experiment, the wander arc seems to be around 2 to 3 degrees. With this information, we can guesstimate the accuracy of gimbaled weapons against particular targets. The numbers I am about to present are going to be the best case scenarios, as they are technically hit scan calculations. They also assume every ship is a box, which can drastically overestimate the hit zones depending on how boxy the ship is. In general, if you stay around 1,000 meters, your gimbals should have little to no problem landing all of their shots, depending on shot speed. It's also worth mentioning that this is the range at which short-range blaster outperforms overcharged. So, once again, I will be recommending using short-range blaster multi-cannons instead of overcharged. Moving into Chapter 3 regarding Emissive Munitions. Emissive Munitions is an experimental option available for pulse lasers and multi-cannons. At the cost of thermal load, striking a target will apply an emissive debuff for 2 seconds. We conducted some tests on Emissive Munitions. Emissive Munitions appear to set your gimbal lock-on arc to its maximum for a given ship geometry. And most importantly, they allow you to ignore signature drop. So if your target drops a heatsink, you won't lose targeting. Here is the data. You can see the most benefit on smaller ships as expected. I do think if you're going to run a gimbal build, you fight primarily around 1,000 meters and you have the hard point to spare for it. Emissive is certainly a fine consideration. However, I would recommend putting it on a pulse laser. The debuff only lasts 2 seconds. Projectile weapons need to travel, they need to reload. This cuts into effective uptime, and they have ammo restrictions. Lasers have infinite ammo, so they have effectively infinite uptime. Let's go ahead and wrap things up with Chapter 4. In general, I don't think that there's anything particularly wrong with gimbaled weapons. They're a very accessible option for people who just want to point their ship at the enemy and pew pew. They might also be your better option depending on ship convergences. For example, the FedVet medium mount convergences are really bad. So I definitely recommend using gimbals there. I'll link a ship convergence resource in the description, and I'll also be linking the Daijobu spreadsheets in the description as well. I think that covers about everything we needed to cover on gimbaled weapons. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them below. If there's anything you'd like us to check out or make a video on, feel free to drop that in the comments as well, or in the Discord, which is also linked below. With that, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.